Hey everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Banished. In fact, by the time that this video goes live, you are probably not going to need me to explain what is happening with Banished, because as it is, it just came out on Steam today, and it's the #1 seller, ending the long reign of games like DayZ and Rust. Although it's probably temporary, that's still pretty cool, because this is an indie game that is made by a very small studio. It might only be one dude, I'm not totally sure, but I know when I emailed the guy, he's like, I've been really busy doing everything for this game, so sorry your code's a little bit late. No worries, totally understood. And it's a city builder. It's a strategy city builder in the same vein as almost like a medieval SimCity, you might think. I've also heard some comparisons to the Settlers series, not Settlers of Catan, but you know. And also, it kind of feels a little bit, if you're not familiar with any of those games, which would surprise me, but if you're unfamiliar with those games, maybe a little bit like an early base building Age of Empires type thing without the military. Or the, you know, the war aspect of it. I've spent close to 2 hours with this game so far because it does take a little while to wrap your head around just exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and we're going to play a little bit of the very early game, and then I have a save that is a couple of years in here, so we'll load into that. But first we're going to start a brand new game. Sure, Zephyr Hillside sounds like a great name. There are map seeds, so you can share those with your friends and play on exactly the same seed if you were interested. I should point out, by the way, this is 20 bucks, so a little bit higher on the price point from an indie standpoint, but still pretty modest considering what this game purports to offer, of course, and what its competition is as well. We can change things like the climate and, you know, the terrain size and the starting conditions and stuff like that, but I've been playing primarily on just medium difficulty, and I haven't been finding it too difficult, although there have been some intricacies that have caused me a little bit of trouble. So I'm going to do my best to kind of tutorialize the very start of the game here, so I'm going to pause it a little bit. And tutorialize exactly what's happening, just so you have an idea if for some reason you have not seen any more videos of this. So this is our world here, Zephyr Hillside. Consists of a bunch of trees and, you know, stone. I'll see if there's some iron around here somewhere. Maybe there is... Oh, there's iron right there, but it's very distant to us. And there's some iron right there. Okay, and actually there's some right here as well, just like the tinier stones are iron. The rivers and lakes contain fish. We can get wood from the trees. We can also hunt these animals that you can see around here. And these are going to provide us with our resources. So this is our population here. I'm actually going to pop out the main outlier kind of screen here. We start with a population of 19 people. And the population basically needs 3 things in order to survive and thrive. You can see down here we have the average health of our citizens and the average happiness. Our goal is to keep both of those stats as high as possible while growing our city as well. But every citizen needs 3 things. They need shelter, they need food, and they need warmth, because there is a seasonal kind of cycle in this. So when it gets cold, they are going to need firewood in order to stay warm. They need food to eat so they don't die, and they need shelter so that, you know, they can sleep and grow their families and, you know, stay protected from the elements. So the very first thing that we're going to do is start building some houses. So we are just going to go down to our menus here. It's very pretty intuitively organized. I've had a few problems so far, but certainly, you know, the tutorials in the game do a very good job of introducing you to the basics, and then you can experiment for yourself and kind of work out the rest of the kinks that the game doesn't necessarily do a great job of explaining, but for the most part, it does do a good job of explaining. So the very first thing we're going to do, you can see the game does a great job of indicating what citizens really need right now. So they need houses. We are going to just start off our game here by building a few houses. I think we'll need roughly 5, so I'm going to put a house here, a house here, and then we'll start rotating these, and we'll put a house here, a house here, and a house... Oh, did that one actually not place? I guess it didn't. A house here, and a house here. Good. So now we'll have 5 houses that are about to be built. One complaint I do have is that I think it's a little bit difficult to see sometimes where buildings are going to come up. Like where you've already placed buildings that are basically queued. So we have 5 houses that are just kind of those weird kind of recessed points there. Now, we are going to start playing the game very, very quickly, but first things first, we can go to our job menu and assign people something to do. So laborers are just people that basically are going to be chopping wood, moving materials to storehouses, collecting stone and iron and stuff like that. So we're going to have 5 people building, and by default, the remaining 5 will just be laboring. So, let's unpause the game, and we'll keep it on speed 1 for the very beginning here, but we will start to speed it up pretty quickly once things start happening. So these guys will start organizing themselves. In a weird way, it kind of reminds me of playing Rimmed Capsule, but having a little bit more control over what your people do, because in Rimmed Capsule, it was kind of like, there was a prioritization thing, but it was mostly like, let your townspeople do whatever they want, but you assign them a job. That's kind of how it works here. But obviously this takes, it's a little bit more robust, if you could say. Is this person just standing here? Well, what we can do is actually say, you know, like, rather than just have them kind of dilly-daddle and do whatever they want, why don't we have a lot of those people that are now functioning as laborers and kind of just wandering aimlessly chop down basically all the trees in this area, and I'll also have them collect all the stone in this area. So basically you just click and drag a box, and wherever there's stone, it'll be like, okay, I'll help you do that. If I look at a building here, let's look at our wooden house. You can see it's 2% complete. It's very easy to see what needs to be fulfilled in order for this building to actually be made. We need to remove something, which has already been removed. That means there was like an obstacle in the way somewhere. We need 16 logs, 8 stones, and then we need basically 30 builds, which is just a kind of arbitrary measurement of how much time and how many man-hours basically are devoted to actually building this building. So you can see now that all the raw materials are here, this will start to be built. Our builders will come over here, and every couple of seconds this will tick up by 1, and pretty soon this house is going to be done. So speed 1 is a little bit slow for my purposes. Speed 2 is what I play on as default, having just started out here. I think speed 5, you can also go up to speed 10. I think speed 5 is what you're probably going to want for the most part if there's nothing else going on. So as for other stuff that we have going on here, we start with a storage barn. This is where we are going to keep some food, you know, clothes, tools, things that we're going to need. In particular, we're going to store food and firewood in here for the winter. We also have a stockpile. This is just where we're going to keep raw materials for now, and we might need one of those or one more of those, I should say, as our population grows and we get more laborers, because obviously this can't hold so much. But our number one priority right off the bat is just to finish off these houses so that our population stops having these, you know, house things appear above their heads. And the next thing that we're going to do is try to figure out some way that we can get a lot of food production happening. And food is one of those things that's a little bit finicky, depending on the way that you choose to produce it, but it's also one of the most important things in the game. So before the first winter, keep in mind it is early spring here, before the first winter, we're going to try to get food and firewood up as soon as possible. So actually, why don't we start food production right away, and I'll explain something cool. We're going to build a crop field, and we'll just spread this as basically as wide as it'll go. That is pretty darn wide there. And then we can click on it, and I should pause the game just quickly because I'm going to explain this, and I don't want to get behind the 8-ball. Obviously, your first years here and the infancy are the most important. We can select a crop, and this changes depending on what world you are. I have started with beans, I've started with potatoes, I've started with corn. Here we have squash and cabbage. Why don't we go with cabbage? And now we can just assign workers to do this. So there's multiple jobs that workers can do. If I go to my job menu here, you can see all of the jobs that they can do. A lot of these are going to be more advanced, like once you get into the mid-game. Oh, and beyond. I didn't mean to hit that button. My apologies there. Once you get into the mid-game and beyond, like, obviously, we're not going to have a brewer for a while. We got bigger fish to fry, and I'm sorry to say that, because it would be nice to make these people a little bit happier with some meat or some, you know, light beer, but unfortunately, that's not going to be our number one priority right now. But we're going to just click on the menu here, or the crop field, and assign one of our workers to be a farmer. And we might actually, now that I think about it, we might need 2, because this is an enormous field here, and I would like it to get full if possible. So now he will, or those 2 people that I assigned there, because gender actually is important in this game because you need people to make families, but the 2 people that I assigned there will start tilling the ground, they'll start planting seeds, and pretty soon we should have some cabbages, and hopefully we can get those grown before the harvest so that we can store as many of them as possible in this storage barn. But what I should do, okay, now that our house is done, everybody should be okay from a housing standpoint. Are there still seriously 2 people that need another house? Okay, fine, you savages. I will build 1 more house. Normally, I only have to build 5. I don't know if maybe my population has been larger this time for whatever reason, but we'll build this one over here. So, we know that we want this house to be up as soon as possible because shelter is basically our number 1 priority for right now. But we might want to, you know, while we have it on our mind, think, you know, oh, we need more food. We're going to need, like, a fishing dock or something like that. So what we can do, and this is very important, and the tutorial doesn't really teach you this, but I found out about it on Reddit, of all places, by the way, if you posted that thread, thank you very much for basically saving my enjoyment of the game when I was trying to figure out how to prioritize things. But we can put down a fishing dock. This will generate fish for us. It's nice to have multiple food sources in case something doesn't work out with our farm here. Plus, you know, food is something that's going to be depleted very continuously. But we can just click this pause button, and then it shows up very clearly on the map that this is paused. I really like this, because it actually is a lot clearer to see what buildings are being produced or in the queue to be produced versus just an indentation on the ground. Especially if we put like a forester's lodge in the forest here, it's almost impossible to see where that's going to be on the ground until the trees are actually cleared, which I find kind of annoying. But, you know, that's one of the minor complaints that I have so far, but it is sometimes, you know, appreciable or, you know, meaningful. So we've still got a lot of farming going on here. As time goes on, this yield is going to tick up, and we want to harvest. They'll harvest automatically once we get to, like, late summer or early autumn, I think. But we want to harvest, if we're going to harvest manually, as close to 100% yield as possible, because that means, obviously, we're not wasting any of our potential with those, with our crops. So I'm just going to click on our storehouse. We have 19 stone stored there, so it should actually be totally possible, although it's taking a while for us to actually be able to produce this remaining house pretty quickly. There we go. We've got more stone there. It might require a little bit more stone. How much do we have left? 14. It might require a little bit more stone in order to make this fishing dock. But we'll speed up to speed 5 quickly because things are going pretty slowly right now. And once this house is done, then we can unpause that fishing dock and get people started to produce that. So, you know, these early stages, you're very much like a fledgling here. It's important to make sure that you prioritize the right buildings at the right time, because really that first winter is going to come up really quickly. So you want to make sure, after we get this fishing dock, we're definitely going to prioritize making a woodcutter. In fact, I'll put that down right now and use the same kind of like pausing system that I've been using earlier. Because a woodcutter makes firewood, and we are going to absolutely need this firewood if we are going to make it through the winter. So we'll just put that down and pause. Remember, townspeople need 3 people in order to survive and thrive. In order to be happy and healthy, they need food, warmth, and shelter. And we're providing a lot of that. But we still need firewood to come out as well. We can look at our storage barn and see. We got a few potatoes stuck in there. That's pretty good. But we're going to wait and hope that harvest turns out well for us here. And we get enough cabbages to last us through the winter. Potatoes and cabbages, man, it's not glamorous, but it'll keep you alive, I guess, through a cold winter. We can also see, I really like playing with this outlier up here at the top, because it shows you all of your important resources that you really want to keep an eye on in order to make sure that you are, you know, staying afloat and sustainable, basically. So we've got 170 stored logs, 0 stored firewood, and 278 stored food. We've got 18 stored stone, no iron, or sorry, no coal. We actually do have 40 iron. And no medicine, but we'll talk about, you know, kind of second order on Maslow's hierarchy of needs things as we get a little bit further along here. Just want to show you the very basics for setting up kind of your town in Banished. I really, really like this early game in Banished. As time has gone on, basically, it's kind of like, let me think of a good analogy for it. It's kind of like learning any skill, right? You struggle, let's say you're learning computer programming or something like that. At first, you struggle to accomplish basically anything. A lot of my citizens died in the first year or two. The first times I tried to build cities, let's pause the game quickly just so I can assign a few people to work on this fisherman's dock. The more people we have, the more fish they'll catch. So we'll put on 2 for now because we want to save 2 more people to maybe, or like 1 person to be a woodcutter and 1 person to be a laborer because we still need raw materials. But the first few times that I started up a city, I had to restart 20 minutes or 30 minutes in because I would just, you know, basically set up my city in the wrong way and things wouldn't go well. So I was just kind of floundering. I didn't really know what was going on. But after I did that a couple of times and repeated it, I was able to get, you know, 4 or 5 years into the game and have a really, really nice city on the go. I'm just going to put my outlier back up here. Or outliner, I should say. And, yeah, again, it mirrors learning other skills because, you know, it takes a little while to get even to the point of proficiency, although the tutorials in the game are very, very good, like 1,000 times better than something like Towns, which is beyond a superficial kind of counterpart to this game. These games occupy, I would say, a very similar space, and Banished does it 100 times better. But yeah, you know, you flounder for a little bit, and then eventually you get it. I suppose we should start getting this built, because it is the summertime now. Hopefully that gets done sooner rather than later, or we might end up without any firewood for the winter, which would completely fly in the face of what I was talking about a second ago. We can probably speed it up to speed 5 again. But yeah, once you kind of work the kinks out and you figure out the procedure necessary in order to kind of get yourself to a city that can at least survive for a couple of winters, then you can start to learn the kind of more complex stuff about the game and start building some buildings that are going to be a little bit more neat in their kind of applications. So you can start worrying about things like a town hall or a school and start educating your people to be more productive. You know, things like a cemetery so that when citizens die, the family members that they have don't get as sad about it. So, you know, that impacts their happiness. Maybe you want to build something like an herbalist, and what an herbalist will do is go out into the forest and get herbs and use these to kind of holistically treat the citizens and improve their health. You can also build a physician that will do that, or a hospital that will do that. Anyway, looks like our stockpile is almost full here, so we actually maybe might want to start building something else. Do I have any builders? Why is this not being built right now? Let's get our job menu up here. We have 5 builders. Maybe we'll go to 4 builders and 1 more laborer. No, we have so many resources. This should be able to happen. This is one thing I will say. I sometimes wish that you had individual control to a higher degree over what each person is doing, because there have been times when I'm like, I desperately need a building to be done. This is a pretty good example of that. I need this woodcutter to be done as soon as possible so that they can make firewood that we can store for the winter. Otherwise, a lot of our people are going to freeze to death, and that's not going to be good for business. But there will be situations occasionally where maybe I have too many things in the build queue, and then there will be like one log that is just sitting in the plot of land that should be an important building, and they won't move it out of the way, and I can't figure out how to get them to move it out of the way. You can change things in the priority order. It's not the most elegant solution. It sometimes works, but I do wish that maybe I could just like click on somebody and be like, you move this log the hell out of the plot. And again, that's another way that it reminds me, maybe not as positively, of a game like Rimmed Capsule, in that occasionally I find myself wishing that I could have a greater amount of control over my individual units. Even though, you know, the argument that you can make is just, hey, stop being so stupid in the way that you kind of plan the moves of your units. But what can I say? I'm not a clever man always. So I'm just building a road right now. Basically what a road allows us to do is it makes our people move faster. When they're on the road, at least, which is very important. We are approaching the first winter here, and we're harvesting the crop fields. I'm hoping that it's gonna, because once it starts to snow, these cabbages will just die. So I'm really hoping that we manage to get as many of these in our barn as possible. It's only 5% full, which is not very good. And we can see if we look at our stored food, we only have, well, it goes up and then it goes down as people eat. So I'm really hoping that we get to like 400 stored food before the winter time. And once we finish one whole year, we'll probably move into my slightly further along game, but still not that far along. So you can see the kind of progression that happens. Because this is... What I really like about this game in comparison to something like SimCity is if I zoom out, you can see how much map we have here. Like the mountains are basically our barriers or our borders on the outside. We got a lot of space relative to, you know, SimCity 2013, and I don't necessarily consider SimCity 2013 to be the worst game ever made, even though I understand why a lot of people have problems with it. But certainly I like that this could be like a 20-hour experience before you even reach the borders, depending on what speed setting you play at. So I think it has a little bit more room for progression in that standpoint, and obviously I understand that there was the city specialization in something like SimCity, and you're designed to trade between cities, but this seems more like a classic city builder. It looks like we did get all of our cabbages into the barn. We're up to 500 food, and we should have a decent amount of food coming out from this, this fishery as well. But for now... we have 120 firewood. That's actually pretty good. So we're going to be entering early winter here soon. The game looks quite nice as well. You know, it doesn't necessarily look like a AAA game by 2014 standpoint, or by a 2014 standpoint, but it looks, you know, like a last-gen, good-looking game, if that makes sense. A lot of strategy games that came out in, like, you know, 2004, 2005, 2006 kind of look like this. And they don't make many strategy games on PC anymore, apart from, like, the Paradox stuff and, you know, Company of Heroes and Total War, I guess. Not to mention StarCraft and expansions, but they don't make games like this that much anymore, so I think it looks good from that kind of standpoint, and it's kind of refreshing just to play a game like this again that's so reminiscent of stuff that I played when I was a kid and an adolescent. I think if you like the idea of what's going on with Banished, like if you like a kind of classic city builder or village builder, town builder, whatever you want to call it, you're going to like Banished. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. $20 at first, I was like, oh man, $20, that's not that puts me off too much, but a lot of people... You have to keep in mind, are like $20 is a very premium price point for a game for some people. For some people, $60 is. But anyway, but after I played it, I was like, you know what? That is more than a fair price, I think, for what's on offer here. It does a much better job with tutorialization than a lot of its counterparts, and even though it's not perfect and it's not totally 100% intuitive, it still does a very good job, I think, of easing the player in and being complex without being overwhelming right at the very beginning. So we're still in early winter here. This is probably, in spite of that kind of panic that I had earlier, this is one of the best early winters I think I've ever had. Or best winters I think I've ever had. We got not that much food stored up, but plenty of firewood. If we want more food, and we do, one thing that we could do is... Let me just look and see if there's some animals around. There are some animals over here, but I have to build a bridge to get to them, which wouldn't be ideal. Okay, so it doesn't really look like there's animals around us. I could build a hunting lodge. But I think what I'm actually going to do instead is build a gathering lodge. So that's going to rely on... let me just find it here. It's in the food menu. That's going to rely on finding things like, you know, berries and mushrooms and stuff like that, rather than actual wild animals, which is good because they're not really anywhere to be found around us right now. So I'm just going to put this, like, fairly deep within the forest here. This thing's probably telling me, yeah, the reserve of firewood is low. Oh, I thought firewood was actually pretty set. What's our stockpile? 73, okay. I thought firewood was pretty set. We should be okay. We still got one woodcutter working here. But now we're building, and then this is where I start to get a little annoyed with the way that it's kind of hard to tell where buildings are being produced. Like, I can barely see it throughout the trees here. I wish it kind of showed up in like a bright color, or like a red outline or a green outline or something like that, or a yellow outline to indicate that it's under construction. But anyway, a gatherer's hut, as you can see, has a range, and it'll just draw berries and mushrooms and stuff that it finds, or stuff that our workers that are working as gatherers find in the forest. So it's a little bit of a reliable source for food for us. Not necessarily as reliable as a farm, but it's, you know, good to diversify your bonds. We have fish that are coming in now, we have cabbage, and now we're going to have some gathering stuff as well. Let's talk about, just before, because it's late winter now, we'll probably move into our later game soon, but let's talk about some of the other buildings that you can build here. In the roads section, you can build stone roads, you know, my favorite band from the Manchester movement, but also you can build bridges, and this is very important because you're oftentimes kind of in like an archipelago type setup where you want to be able to get across these rivers and lakes that you come across to access kind of other islands, and those islands... Oh, this is already done, actually. That's really good. Let's put 2 gatherers on there because we need more food. Yeah, these other islands have their own unique resources sometimes. Maybe there's a lot of iron over here. It actually looks like there's a decent amount of iron or coal. And there's some animals over here as well. So, you know, with respect to food, what we could do is build like a stone bridge that goes across here, and then, or a wooden bridge that goes across there, I should say. And then we could build a hunter's lodge. And if we build like a hunter's, it's actually a hunter's cabin. But if we build like a hunter's cabin right here, it'll use that kind of radius and get all the animals within that radius, bring them back to our town and generate food, as well as give us leather and hides. And we can use those hides with a tailor, which you can see here. And this tailor will make warm clothes for our citizens so that they don't get as cold. So you can see, you know, firewood is not the only thing that you need to stay warm, or not the only thing that you could use to stay warm. You could also get warm clothes. You could also build a tavern, and if you build a tavern, then you have, you know, citizens can go there and drink alcohol and be happier. What can I say? It's true. You can get an herbalist, and I think I talked about the herbalist earlier, but this is actually something that's fairly important to build. As you can see, the average health of our citizens is going down a little bit. So rather than build a hospital, which is a little bit more resource intensive, I think, we could just put down an herbalist, and if we then use a road and put the road over here, they will start building that, and the herbalist will gather herbs from the forest and then create, you know, tonics and potions and, you know, holistic remedies, basically, that will make our townspeople a little healthier. Whether you agree with that or not, that is the mechanic of how it works in the game. So yeah, things do get more and more advanced as time goes on. So let's save this game, because I'm actually very pleased with the way the city has gone so far. And we'll save this right on this spot right here. And then we'll load into the game that I've played a little bit more before. So I believe that would be Dolly from 326, or maybe I should go with 357 then. Although I'm pretty sure I manually saved just before I wanted to start, but whatever. Yes, we'll load it. Oh, why is the yes button on the left side? 0 out of 10. Loading times are pretty good as well. Wait, that's the city I just did. Okay, that was my bad. I'm an idiot. We'll load into Dolly then. Yeah, because Zephyr Hillside is the one that we're on right now. I wish you could name the saves yourself. It's such a minor gripe, but to be like whenever I play EU4 and I'm like doing something, I name my save like, hey, next time you load, don't forget to vassalize the Teutonic Order. I would love to be able to do that here and be like, basically tell my future self this is where you were when the game ended. So we're in late summer here. We're about to experience another winter, I guess, and I'll give you a quick rundown of what's going on in my town. So this is where we started over here. I've got multiple houses set up. This is our 5th year, so it's not that much further ahead, but this represents maybe like 45 minutes of gameplay, depending on the speed you play it at. I got a fisherman's dock, plenty of houses, a couple of stockpiles here for raw materials, huge crop of beans, and an even huger crop of beans over here. And unfortunately, I've had to kind of micromanage my farmers between them because I don't necessarily have enough workers to get all this done. Another way that you can generate food that I actually didn't talk about is via an orchard. So yeah, you can catch fish, you can hunt animals, and I do have a hunting lodge somewhere in this vicinity. Well, you know what? I've got one right over here because I know that there's animals near me. You can also have gatherers, and I've got a gathering hut right here. I think I also have a hunter's lodge, or a forester's lodge right there. The herbalist, there's our hunting cabin. Yeah, I've got another hunting cabin right here. But you can also have an orchard, and by having an orchard, Basically, you plant nuts and fruits, and then it takes several years, but once that time eventually goes over, or clicks up, then it's very easy for you to harvest even more food, and again, diversify your crops, just to make sure in case something goes wrong, you still have the ability to feed yourselves. I have some more houses that I'm just about to on-pause, so that maybe this will encourage some more population growth within my city. I have a market, which is basically just a big storehouse for extra raw materials and processed materials as well. And I've also started expanding to the kind of isles that are over here as well, or the other land masses that are over here. And one thing I didn't talk about, but I should have talked about, is the Forester's Lodge. Basically, this is like a way to automate the generation of log resources. And we can do the same thing with stone and iron by building mines and quarries. But basically, when you build this, there's a radius. That's something you should be accustomed to by now. And then you assign people to the Forester's Lodge, and they become loggers, basically. They'll not only cut trees and then bring the resources back to your stockpile so that you can use it to build things, but they'll also plant more. So it's meant to be a little bit more sustainable, and you don't have to constantly like click and drag and be like, harvest these trees specifically. You can also, manage them more kind of minutely and tell them when to cut and when to plant, and you could tell them not to plant if you wanted to for some reason, maybe if you wanted to clear that land out to make it more residential. One of the things I really like about Banished is these kind of like pop-up, well, not pop-up, but like these yellow indicators that tell you why something is happening and why it warrants your attention. So if I look at my blacksmith here who produces tools, I can mouse over and see the production limit for this resource has been reached. So this guy's now doing nothing because he's produced 50 tools, which is as much as I told him to produce. I'll take a quick look at my storage barns. It looks like we have a decent number of tools kind of stored. But you know what? Why don't we have you produce up to maybe I guess 150 is good enough. We'll have you produce up to 150 tools instead, so you can still be busy. How about this guy? This is a tailor. And if I mouse over this, like, does not work sign, I can see the materials required to perform the work are not available. Why is that? You need leather, and I guess we do not have any leather stored anywhere. That's correct. So we might want to, build another hunter's lodge or something like that. But I did just finish this one over here. So anyway, let's unpause, and we'll run it on speed 5 just for a little while. And you can see the blacksmith has now started working again because I've rectified his problem there. And hopefully soon we'll have some leather coming in. You can also see here, as time goes on, you can really make things kind of more comfortably run. The health of my citizens is pretty good, the happiness is pretty good, and beyond that, we have so much stored food and firewood that I feel really, really good about the kind of way that this town is running. And it's, again, kind of like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs thing, that's the theory or phenomenon by which, like, you prioritize what humans need to survive. First, you need physical needs like food, shelter, and stuff like that, and then it goes on and on to things of lower priority. We've fulfilled, like, those high level or those low level needs basically of things that are necessary for our own biological survival in this town. Maybe it's time to start moving on to things like town services, which is right here, and maybe we can build a schoolhouse and we can start actually like teaching people to be more productive, or we can build a hospital and heal people's diseases. I don't know why a hospital can't actually be placed in that location. Oh, you know why? Because it's hills. That's why that road was such a pain in the ass to build earlier. But I can maybe build like a hospital over here, so why don't we do that? And we'll actually pause that for right now just so they continue to prioritize building those houses. But anyway, we'll play like another maybe half year here so you can get more of a feel for Banished. I have positive opinions on the game. They dipped a little bit after when I did the tutorials. I was like, this game's really good at tutorialization. I like that because when I played Towns a year and a half ago, a couple years ago now, ooh, that was a rough time. And I understand Towns, some people are devout fans of that game. More power to you. By the way, you can see our tailor is actually working now because we do have some, we picked up some more leather over here. We should probably build like a mine near this iron because it's just, nothing's happening with it right now, or happening with it right now. Why don't we build a mine quickly? That should be in resources. Oh, wait a minute. Resource production, that's what I want. So we'll build a mine like right, whoa, it's the freaking hills in this area are so annoying. Never mind, maybe we won't. Oh, that's something I'll worry about in my own time. We can unpause this now because our houses are done. Yeah, I understand Towns has some devout fans, and that's fine. I'm not trying to shit on Towns any more than is necessary, but I had a really hard time wrapping my brain around even finishing the tutorial scenarios in that game. In this game, everything's clearly stated and laid out when you first get started. It teaches you the basics. There are some intricacies about, like build order and stuff like that. Like the ability to pause builds so that your builders actually prioritize the important buildings is super important, but it's something that I feel like could have been handled a little bit better. But those are relatively minor complaints. If you're into city builders, I think Banished is a game that you are going to be capable of having a lot of fun with. Sincerely, I have found myself having a lot of fun with it as well. And, you know, I'm kind of invested in some other strategy games right now, namely Paradox stuff. But this might be something that actually rivals with those in terms of garnering my attention throughout the kind of late winter season here. I want to see if... Do we have enough iron to actually produce this? We have a lot of iron tools. This is maybe I shouldn't have cranked up the iron production from our blacksmith here, or cranked up the production from our blacksmith here, because now he's going to suck up all our iron. I don't know, and you know, the other thing is, I will say, I don't really know how to build mines and quarries and stuff like that, and that actually seems pretty important. As you can see, reserve of iron is low and reserve of stone is low. So it would be really nice to be able to know how to build those and have a tutorial for that, but I guess that's something I can look up online. I'm already invested enough into the game that I don't mind having to do my own independent research to figure out some of the more intermediate or advanced level stuff, because it already got me past that really, really rough learning curve, kind of like the roller coaster going up part. That's already been taken care of. Now I can just use my momentum in my enjoyment for the game to actually learn some stuff that might be more critical for how things get later. Let's build a mine. I'm guessing that maybe that like stone or that big part has to be on top of... How does... Oh, it has to be like set into a hill. Okay, I get you now. See, you can start to figure things out. Or I can start to figure things out ever so slowly. Okay, so like we want it set in like that. But I'm not very good at finding a place for this. This is where the video starts to get cringeworthy, isn't it? Oh, that one was pretty close. There, oh, yeah, okay, we actually can build a mine over here. There we go. So let's prioritize that after we build the hospital. And, you know, it's important to build the roads as well. It's probably important to build, like, a second city center over here, maybe, with, you know, another storage zone and, you know, another, you know, farm, potentially, because our builders take forever to get over there. Maybe the most important thing is just having more houses over here. Your population does grow pretty slowly when you start out. As you can see, I still only have 31 people. We started with, like, 19, and it's been 5 years. But in any case, I really like this point of the game where you're sustainable, and you can just kind of focus on building those higher order buildings that are perhaps more important. I don't know how much more there is to say about Banished. I think I'm just going to actually, you know, save our game here, because I may actually play this one in my off time. And then we'll go back to the main menu, but generally speaking, I think this is a pretty positive experience. I don't really have anything super negative to say about it. In fact, even the gripes that I have about it are pretty minor and kind of wash away once you actually figure out how to wrap your head around some of the stuff that the tutorials are not necessarily fantastic about. Interface-wise, pretty good, and from like a fun and progression standpoint, I think this game's really got it going on. So this is a game that isn't necessarily 100% within my wheelhouse, but I'm intrigued by it, and I really think that if this is something that you're yearning for, and maybe some of the city builders that came out last year left a little bit of a hole in your life, then this is something that you should probably consider picking up. 20 bucks is a totally reasonable price for a game of this scope, I think, and overall, I think this is really well done. There will be a link in the video description below to pick it up on Steam if you're interested, and of course, as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to show your support by leaving a like. It helps out a great deal, and subscribe if you want to see more in the future. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.